The trio of bolts that were ours to use and abuse that morning. The blue and grey cars both wore an U-spec summer tire, the red one the standard all-season. The grey car was the quicker of the summer-shod pair. Chevy brought a Golf GTI along as a yardstick. He left front Michelin Primacy 3 before too much fun was had. The same tire a couple of hours later. It managed a few more runs before the shoulder was well and truly bald and the tire was done. Times of the day. I was never quite able to better my 40.8 in the grey Bolt, although the course was a little drier and more familiar by late morning. The tires were shot. See preceding photo. A little tire smoke was possible, but most of that cloud is dust from the white line. I would love to try this car with some proper performance tires and a grippier seat. Maybe somewhere like mid-Ohio. This was my first ever autocross, and I don't think I embarrassed myself or us. I should have brought a long lens along to get better photos though. Detroit, Michigan. Chevrolet probably deserves more credit than it's getting for the Bolt electric vehicle. CEO Mary Barra gave her engineers some targets that had to be met, a move that was reminiscent of the diktats given to Bugatti by Ferdinand Piëch, except the goals were range and a price ceiling rather than 4 digits of horsepower and a lunatic top speed. The Bolt met Barra's demands, and in the process Chevy built a fine car, one that's actually fun to drive. During the lead-up to and first month since the car's arrival, Chevy had been more interested in talking about the Bolt's range or the efficiency of its electric motor. But that changed when we got word that it was planning a more performance-y focused event. Would we be interested in autocrossing the Bolt? Obviously, we were. The setup I'm a complete novice to autocrossing, so I won't attempt to explain it in too much depth. A course is laid out upon a suitably sized piece of tarmac, tight and demanding turns mapped out in little orange cones. Any straights are short enough to keep top speeds low, but the throttle is still pinned to the floor as often as possible. Your time starts when you pass the first timing light and finishes when you reach the second. Shortest time wins, but you have to complete the entire course without hitting any of the cones. Today this would not be rigorously enforced. A single clipped cone would be met with a blind eye, but expect to be DQ'd if you mow down more than a couple. Normally, one gets very few runs of an autocross course during an event. But there were only 4 cars and 7 drivers, and we had the entire morning to ourselves. However, there was the lurking threat of rain. Early last week it felt as if the entire country was under a rain cloud, perhaps in sympathy with coastal Texas. The night before saw plenty of rain in Detroit, although the course was drying up by the time we arrived that morning. By late morning there was the occasional spot of rain, less than a drizzle but perhaps more than a sprinkling. More runs would mean more familiarity with the course and cars, and, theoretically, a faster time. Balancing those advantages were the tires. None of us had to pay to replace them, so none of us had any incentive to be gentle. Instead there was an ever-present desire to see smoking rubber, preferably on camera and in focus. You'll notice some of the photos make it look very sunny. There were several waves held over 2 days, and those that followed us were blessed with good weather and a photography team. The cars: there were 4 cars at our disposal, 3 Bolts and a VW Golf GTI. The choice of a Golf GTI as a benchmark was certainly bold. The definitive hot hatch may have lost its way in generations 3 and 4, but it's now very much back on song. It's the go-to car when you want something fun, practical, affordable, and stylish without being overstyled. It's also a car you'd expect to find at an autocross, although more often with 3 pedals and a manual gearbox. This car was a GTI Sport with a dual-clutch gearbox. It has a few more horsepower than the Bolt, but roughly the same torque. It's a little quicker than the Bolt at sea level, it's lighter, and a good deal less expensive if we consider MSRP and ignore any EV tax credits. How they match up: Chevrolet Bolt, Volkswagen Golf GTI Sport. Base price $37,495, $26,815. Powertrain: permanent magnet synchronous AC motor, 1-speed direct drive transmission, front-wheel drive 2.0L turbocharged direct injection inline 4-cylinder internal combustion engine, 6-speed dual-clutch transmission, front-wheel drive, power 200 horsepower, 150 kilowatts, 220 horsepower. horsepower, 164 kilowatts, torque 266 ft-lbs, 360 newton meters, 258 ft-lbs, 350 newton meters, 060 mph, 6.5 seconds, 5.9 seconds, curb weight 3,569 pounds, 1,617 kilograms, 3,116 pounds, 1,413 kilograms. The Golf and two of the Bolts wore summer tires. Nothing super sticky, and no, we swear it's not a cut slick. Double-digit wear rating: Pirelli Cinturato P7S for the VW and Michelin Primacy 3S for the summer tire bolts. The remaining bolt was fitted with the stock all-season Michelin's Energy Saver as self-seal. The results in large hybrid cars.com's Evan Williams in the driver's seat, getting some tips from Corvette Racing's Tommy Milner. Evan probably didn't need any help from Milner and was comfortably quicker than the rest of us journalists. What happened next confirmed my instincts about the boat. Wearing of it is actually a hoot to drive. The center of gravity is nice and low, so even though you sit high up, you don't have to fight that much body roll. The powertrain is torquey and very responsive, and there was even a little hint of lift-off oversteer that helped on the final few corners of the course. I didn't notice too much difference between leaving the transmission in D, which coasts when you lift off, or low, where the regan kicks in as your foot leaves the throttle pedal. Because I was usually crossed up in the corners, the regan paddle on the steering wheel didn't get a lot of attention. With traction control turned off, the handling became flashier, particularly that lift-off oversteer. But it didn't make the Bolt go any faster, and the all-season tires weren't much slower than the summer rubber. A new spec tire for those who were wondering. The Golf, by comparison, was faster straight away and certainly felt in more the part thanks to bolstered seats, trimmed in the GTI tartan, of course, and a sportier driving position that feels like you're in the car rather than on it. The best way to coax a time out of the red VW was definitely Son's traction control, and I could probably have found some more time to be gained with a few more runs. A little before lunch the skies darkened, and at least two left front tires were now ready for recycling. Fastest overall was Tommy Milner, one of Chevrolet's tame racing drivers. Normally Milner is found racing one of the bright yellow Corvette C7Rs at places like Daytona and Road America. Today he was on hand to give us pointers. But a close second was Evan Williams from hybridcars.com. We knew Evan was serious that morning when he appeared wearing a rather autocross-specific shirt from Blip Shift. In fact, he set the fastest times for any of the journalists in all of the cars, breaking the 40-second barrier in the summer-tired Bolton GTI. Your faithful correspondent was looking at second quickest journo in the Bolt. Then The Verge's Sean O'Carney found about 3 more tenths of a second, using up what remained of a Bolt's left front tire in the process. We had to settle for third, or fifth if you count Milner and GM's chief engineer Mike Lally. After driving the production Bolt at the start of the year, I ended our write-up by calling for GM to make a 400 horsepower twin-motor Bolt SS. I still want that to happen, but I'd probably be just as happy with a tuned Bolt Sport fitted with slightly grippier seats, slightly stiffer springs, and properly sticky summer tires. But here's a better idea: build at least 25 Bolts like that, then stick in roll cages and run them in New York in support of Formula E. Toyota used to have a lot of PR success with a celebrity prom race at the Long Beach Grand Prix, and I don't doubt Chevrolet would get similar results, adding some sporting cachet to its CV's efficiency street cred. Listing image by Chevrolet.